The studio lights are already hot, the audience buzzing, but something feels off before a single word is even said. Wait, are you serious right now? That's how it starts. Jason Statham leans back slightly in his chair, jaw tight, eyes locked on the host across from him. There's no smile, no playful banter, just a sharp edge that cuts straight through the room. The audience, expecting the usual light daytime energy, goes quiet almost instantly. The host blinks, caught halfway between surprise and a forced smile. Jason, okay, I think we might be getting off on the wrong foot here. No, he cuts in, calm but firm. I don't think we are. A ripple moves through the crowd, some nervous laughter, some gasps. This isn't the typical segment. This isn't going how it was planned. The host shifts in her seat, crossing one leg over the other, trying to regain control. Let's just reset for a second, she says, glancing briefly at the camera before turning back to him. We're here to talk about your new film, which is doing incredibly well, by the way. Then why didn't we start there? Jason fires back, not raising his voice but making every word land. There's an awkward pause. You can almost hear the production crew holding their breath. The host exhales, her smile thinning. Because part of what we do here is have real conversations. And sometimes that means asking questions people might not expect. Jason leans forward now, elbows resting lightly on his knees. There's a difference between unexpected and unfair. A few audience members clap instinctively, then stop, unsure if they should. The tension thickens. Okay, the host says, nodding slowly. Let's address it then. I asked about the criticism around your roles, all very similar, all very aggressive, and whether you feel like you're being typecast. Jason tilts his head slightly, almost incredulous. That's not how you asked it. She raises an eyebrow. Isn't it? No, he says, sharper now. You said, and I'm quoting, do you ever worry audiences are getting tired of seeing you play the same guy over and over again? That's not curiosity. That's a jab. The audience reacts, some oohs, some shifting in their seats. The host laughs lightly, but it doesn't land. Jason, come on. That's a fair question. Actors get asked that all the time. Sure, he replies. In a sit-down interview, maybe. In a context where it's actually about the work. But the way you framed it. He shakes his head. It felt like you were trying to get a reaction. There's a beat. The host's expression hardens just slightly. Well, she says, you are giving one. That line lands, and not in a good way. The audience goes quiet again. Jason straightens in his chair, his posture more rigid now. You invited me here to talk about something I've put years of work into, he says. Not to be, poked at for entertainment. The host opens her mouth to respond, but hesitates for just a fraction of a second. It's enough for the moment to stretch uncomfortably. That's not what this is, she finally says, though her tone has shifted, less warm, more defensive. We're having a conversation. And part of that is honesty. Honesty's fine, Jason replies. But respect matters too. A few audience members clap again, this time louder, more certain. The host glances briefly toward the crowd, then back at him. Are you saying I've been disrespectful? Another pause. Jason doesn't answer immediately. He looks out toward the audience, then back at her, weighing his words. I'm saying, he begins slowly, that there's a way to ask things without making it sound like you've already decided the answer. That line hangs in the air. The host leans back slightly, crossing her arms now, a subtle shift, but noticeable. Or maybe, she says, you just didn't like the question. A collective inhale from the audience. Jason's lips press into a thin line. He nods once, almost to himself. That's one way to spin it. Spin, she repeats, eyebrows lifting. Jason, this is live television. There's no spin here. He lets out a short, humorless laugh. Everything's spin. The room feels tighter now, like the walls are inching in. Let me ask you something, the host continues, leaning forward again, her voice more pointed. Why does that question bother you so much? If you're confident in your work, why not just answer it and move on? There it is, the push. Jason looks at her for a long moment, then glances down briefly before looking back up. When he speaks, his tone is lower, more controlled, but there's an unmistakable edge. Because it's not just about the question, he says. It's about intent. The audience murmurs softly. And what do you think my intent is? She challenges. Another pause. Longer this time. Jason shifts in his seat, his patience clearly thinning. Honestly. She nods. Honestly. He exhales slowly. It feels like you're trying to create a moment instead of having a conversation. The words land heavy. The host's smile disappears completely now. Well, she says coolly, we definitely have a moment. A few uneasy laughs ripple through the audience. Jason shakes his head slightly. Yeah. Not the kind I signed up for. The tension is at a breaking point. The host glances toward the camera again, clearly aware of how this is playing out live. We're just getting started, she says, trying to pivot. There's a lot more to talk about. Jason cuts in again, this time more firmly. Then maybe we should actually talk about it. Silence. Real, uncomfortable silence. For a second, neither of them speaks. The audience doesn't move. Even the usual background noise of a live set seems to fade. The host finally nods once, tight. All right, she says. Let's talk. Jason leans back again, but this time, he doesn't relax. His eyes stay locked on her, guarded now. And just like that, what was supposed to be a routine interview has turned into something else entirely. Something unpredictable, something tense, and far from over. The silence doesn't break gently, it snaps. All right, the host says again, this time more firmly, like she's trying to reassert control of the room. Let's actually talk about it then. You say it's about intent. So tell me, what do you think I'm trying to do here? Jason doesn't answer right away. He shifts slightly in his chair, glancing off stage for a split second, then back at her. His expression has changed, not explosive, but colder, more measured. I think, he says slowly, you knew exactly how that question would come across. A low murmur rolls through the audience. The host lets out a short breath through her nose. Or, she counters, I asked what a lot of people are already thinking. Jason nods once. That's possible. But there's a difference between representing an audience and nudging them. Nudging them, she repeats, leaning forward. Into what? Into a narrative, he says plainly. That lands harder than anything so far. There's a noticeable shift in the room, people leaning forward, a few whispers, cameras subtly tightening their shots. The host tilts her head, clearly not backing down. So now I'm pushing narratives? Jason shrugs slightly. You said it, not me. A couple of audience members laugh, nervously. No, you implied it, she fires back. Let's not dance around that. Another pause. Jason's jaw tightens again. I'm not dancing, he says. I'm being careful. Careful of what? She presses. He looks at her directly. Of turning this into something it doesn't need to be. There's a beat, and then she goes for it. But maybe it already is, she says. Because you're clearly upset. The word hangs there, upset. Jason exhales, a faint shake of his head. You keep trying to frame it like that. Because that's how it's coming across, she replies quickly. No, he says, sharper now. That's how you're choosing to present it. The audience reacts again, this time louder, more divided. Some clap. Others just sit there, wide-eyed. The host straightens up fully, her tone losing any remaining softness. Jason, this is what we do here. We ask real questions. Sometimes they're uncomfortable. That's part of the job. And I've done plenty of those, he shoots back. But usually there's a bit of balance. A bit of, he gestures lightly, searching for the word, good faith. That phrase hits. Good faith, she repeats, almost incredulous. You think I'm not acting in good faith? I think, he says, leaning forward again, voice steady but intense, you decided what this segment was going to be before I even sat down. A loud whoa comes from somewhere in the audience. The host's lips press together. For a second, it looks like she might interrupt, but she doesn't. And that's fine, Jason continues, if that's the show. But then just be upfront about it. Upfront, she echoes. We're live. This is as upfront as it gets. Jason lets out a short laugh again, but there's no humor in it. Right. Another pause. This one heavier than the last. The host glances briefly toward the producer's off-camera, just a flicker, then back to him. So what are you saying, she asks. That you don't want to be here? There it is. The question changes everything. The audience goes completely still. Jason doesn't answer immediately. He sits back slowly, one hand resting on the arm of the chair, the other tapping lightly against his leg. You can see the calculation happening. What to say, how far to take this. I'm saying, he begins carefully, that I came here to talk about my work. To have a conversation. Not to feel like I'm being cornered for a headline. A headline, she repeats. Yes, he says. Because that's what this turns into. Not the film, not the effort, just this. He gestures between them. And you think I want that? She challenges. I think it doesn't hurt, he replies bluntly. The audience reacts again. Some gasps, a few scattered claps. The host shakes her head, clearly frustrated now. That's not fair. Jason leans in one last time, his voice low but firm. Neither was the question. That's the breaking point. There's a long, uncomfortable silence. No one moves. Even the cameras seem to hesitate. Then the host exhales sharply and looks straight into the camera for a second before turning back to him. If you feel that strongly, she says, her tone now controlled but tight, you're free to respond however you want. That's always been the case. Jason nods slowly. All right. Another pause. He places both hands on the arms of his chair and shifts forward slightly, like he's about to stand. Just enough movement to make the audience react with a ripple of surprise. And I will say this, he continues, stopping short of actually getting up. If this is the direction we're going in, then yeah, I'm not sure this is the right place for me. A loud mix of gasps and chatter fills the studio. The host's eyes widen just a fraction. Are you saying you're going to leave? Jason holds her gaze. I'm saying, he replies, choosing each word carefully, I'm not interested in sitting here just to be turned into a clip. That lands hard. For a second, it genuinely feels like he might walk. The tension is thick, uncomfortable, real. Then something shifts. The host leans back slightly, her expression changing, not softer exactly, but less combative. More aware. All right, she says after a moment, her voice quieter now. Then let's reset. For real this time. The audience exhales collectively. You want to talk about the film, she continues. Let's talk about the film. Jason studies her for a second, like he's deciding whether to believe it. All right, he says finally, though the edge hasn't completely disappeared. She nods once. Tell me what this project meant to you. There's a small pause, but it's different now. Less explosive, more cautious. Jason answers, and for the first time since the segment started, the conversation actually sounds like a conversation. He talks about the physical demands, the preparation, the story, briefly, professionally. The audience settles. But the tension never fully disappears. It lingers underneath every word, every glance. After a minute or so, the host wraps it up, turning back to the camera with a composed smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Well, she says, that was certainly a conversation. A few scattered laughs. Jason gives a slight nod, but doesn't add anything. And that's what live television is all about, she continues. Unfiltered moments. The camera slowly pulls back. Jason sits still, composed again, but distant. The segment ends, but the energy doesn't resolve. It just hangs there. And you already know what's coming next. Clips, headlines, debates. Was he right to push back? Did the host cross a line? Or is this exactly what these shows are meant to do? That's where you come in. Drop your thoughts below. Was Jason justified, or did he overreact? And if you want more breakdowns of moments like this, hit subscribe and stay with Final Take Files.